And I had that death threat a few days before the weekend, and I did not feel safe being open. I was not doing anything besides trying to go ahead and just live.
Hello, and welcome to That's Just Human, a podcast that explores all aspects of being human, living in a human body, and dealing with life's obstacles. I'm your host, Elisha LightAngel, and by day I'm a massage therapist, but like you, I live in a human body and I have a plethora of human experiences. And this is the place where we talk about those and other people's experiences. Today, I'm really excited that one of my best friends, and I know y'all are going to be like, Elisha, how many best friends do you have? I have a lot. I'm very blessed in life. And she's been one of my besties for a long time. I don't even know what year we met, but I do remember it was at a magical gathering. And she is a very magical being herself. She has been practicing witchcraft and all things witchy since she was a child. So she's had quite a long journey to learn a lot about it. And she's really into astrology and birth charts. She can tell people what their astrology and birth charts are if they book a consult with her. She does tarot readings for spiritual guidance and other consultations. Really amazing, intuitive being with a lot of wisdom and knowledge. And at this point, she is situated in East Texas, and she has her own little shop, Cato Moon, where she offers readings and other spiritual guidance as people are needing and helping out the community that finds her there. So please join me in welcoming one of my best friends, Azure. Welcome.
Hello,
Thank you.
hello. No, thank you for having me. When you're like, oh, like one of my best friends, and it's really one of those things where I tell folks I am so blessed, and like we are so blessed that we've got so many people in our lives that have, just enriched like not only our own personal experiences in life, but when we can go ahead and have people meet and be kind of like that nexus, like it's just like this spreading of love and experience and wonderfulness. So I really appreciate you having me on and being here, and I'm super excited.
Yay. Thank you so much. I'm excited too. So, with your specialty being everything witchy, that's what we're going to dive into today and tap on some of your experience and what that's been like and some of the things that you've gone through, even most recently,
Yeah.
and some, I guess, persecution. Because even though we're not in the Salem witch trials, and it's much, I would say, much trendier to be a witch in today's modern
Right.
society,
Right.
there is still a backlash
Yeah.
against that. So um, I know you've been experiencing some of that. Can you
Um,
talk to it?
yeah. So when I moved out here to East Texas about 3 years ago, I felt like there was almost like a precursor to me having come out as now it is lovingly referred to as the village witch or the town witch. And Jefferson is a very small place, and folks talk about it being like Mayberry, and it does absolutely have that vibe. There is a time where I was coming out of the studio really early one morning, and I was driving home in my little 0.4 miles away from the studio, right? And um there was like my neighbor and somebody else who was talking to our police chief on the corner, and I'm waving like good morning, you know. I go down the street a little bit, and then like one of the members that I know that's on the school board and her husband are like walking their morning walk, and I'm like good morning, so I have never been in a town that has been so interconnected. There is, as always, a blessing and a curse with that. When I, like I said, moved here, I felt that there was this kind of order of operations that I had to do, um, to make sure that people were like not had this inherent pitchforks and torches on the lawn kind of situation. When I first moved to Jefferson, I got involved with a couple of different groups here in town. I started with Mardi Gras and working on our float with that. And it's been, this year is year number 4, so that's been really exciting. We won first place, and it's just been monumental. So some of these different things and working with animal rescue has kind of given folks this, hey, I am human. I'm not whatever kind of stereotype that folks want to go ahead and portray, right? Like they knew that I was just a little bit quirky with the fire performing and the this and the that and going different places. But when I opened my tarot studio in July, it was July 4th of 2024. It was in a space like boom, like right downtown Jefferson. And one of my friends who owns an Airbnb, we're having coffee, and I had been, laid off from the mortgage industry since February of 23. So I didn't have a lot going on. I was working, here and there with the paper here in town, which is the 4th oldest paper in town. And my boss is, he taught me a lot and worked with me, and we were able to do, I actually started doing some of the different, the horoscopes for the paper, and then working with the museum here in town and writing grants. So I was trying to go ahead and keep busy with that. And then I had my shop, but going back to a 9 to 5 where like my industry is picking back up, it's more like sometimes it's like 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning to like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Like I have been at work until like 1:30. So going ahead and having my lease come up and kind of downsizing was just, kind of made sense. And that's how I ended up in the space that I am. But kind of, coming back to when I first opened up, I wanted it to be palatable for the town. So I named the studio Shangri-La, and I made it very kind of like this hippie vibe that, like I said, was going to be more like family consumer friendly in what I guess I thought it would be. In October, I faced some different kinds of town drama that had really had me second guessing, like if I was going to be able to come back from this, if people were going to be accepting of this. And I just pushed through it. I literally just put my blinders on and was like, these folks are going to go ahead and they're going to say whatever they're going to, but I just kept showing up for myself. And honestly, that's something that you taught me. So high five. Thank you for that. And how we would talk about inner critics with, like you had with other people, and turning it into your inner cheerleader. Again, high five, 2 thumbs up, would recommend. Those are different things that I would go ahead and I would hear. Also putting together some of the other life experiences that I had with folks, that you just get to a certain age where you're like, at that time, I think I was 42 or 43. And I was like, are you going to continually be that 14-year-old girl in junior high that was getting, just feeling this fear and feeling this anger that you were being talked about because of your belief system? Or are you going to go ahead and say, like, this is who I am? And the stereotypes and whatever people want to go ahead and put together, that's on them. What is it that, one of the 4 agreements, what people think about me is none of my business, that kind of take on things. And I just worked through it. I have had 4 death threats, which I don't want to kind of slough it off like it's nothing, but writing for the online publication with the Wild Hunt, there has been different death threats that have come in. And unfortunately, it was stemmed from writing about an article that was Polk County Pagan Market. So I don't want to say that, it's all that. it's old hat. It's nothing, like I've been through this before, that, but it's one of those things where if this person is so intimidated by me, that's, again, that's on them. That's on them. So being here in East Texas, like I just I came out here when I was 40 for a birthday. And then, like I said, like things develop, and it was one of our favorite hot spots. And, you were there for wedding day. And it was just this wonderful place that we just felt really great about. But then, like I said, when you get to start to actually be part of the town and its tapestry of all kinds of different, religions and political ideas and stuff that is not necessarily aligned with yours. I talk about loving people and loving one another and everything. And I have to thank Jefferson for pushing that it's like this whole thing, like this practicing what you preach, right? Because I have different political views or religious views and different things, I have literally just had to kind of put all of what I will go ahead and I will be about. It's like I had to be about it. I had to give them that chance instead of just pigeonholing them into oh, they're not going to accept me, or oh, they're going to do this, or oh, they're like this. And again, it was kind of like those inner critics in your head saying that you're not going to be accepted, that blah blah blah. When I would sit here and I would talk on social media about some of the different things, or about the death threats, or about things that I would, go ahead and come up against, some of the most pious women were in my inbox. You need to go ahead and you need to talk to these officials and these officials and these officials. And they just wanted to go ahead and protect me, which meant just the world to me, in all honesty, that like they cared enough, no matter how different I was, and no matter me and my belief system and everything, that it didn't line up with theirs. It didn't matter. So it broke down some of my misconceptions that I still had stuck, in and some of my fears. So I really thank Jefferson for pushing me outside, my boundaries, and what it's like, oh, you think you think let me go ahead. And the universe is like, let me push on this a little bit. Let me push on this a little bit. And soon it's like you find out what kind of experiences you are having that you might not have had in a bigger city, because you're with just a smaller group of people, And it's been such a wonderful journey just being part of a town that does have these different things for Christmas, these historical homes that people will go ahead and come into from, as far away as Oklahoma and Louisiana and Dallas and Houston, and they make this weekend out of it. We've got other events that the town, does. The place that I'm at right now here at the Captain's Castle, which is one of the oldest and one of the oldest families here in Jefferson. Like I get to be a part of that, and history was always my favorite subject in the school. So it has just been this amalgamation of growth and oh, it's been a beautiful time. It's been a really beautiful time.
Well, that sounds like quite a journey, just, moving from big city to small town, experiencing death threats.
Yeah.
So, since all of this has happened and you've had to stand your ground
Yeah.
and be who you are and you just be like, come at me, but
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I know. Come at me,
Uh,
bro. My Scorpio gets all big.
so what's it been like navigating that? Like when you got your first death threat, did you have any kind of internal panic, any fear, or
And what was really frustrating is that we were having one of our now annual events for the animals. Marion County does not have animal control, so we have Friends of Jefferson that was started, and Dina and a few other really crucial volunteers are our boots on the ground. Like I'm help, I do my best to like help out with Mardi Gras and try to get some other things done, but there are some folks behind the scenes that just really push. So we were having our, I think it was the second wolf stock that we have here in town, and I had that death threat a few days before the weekend, and I did not feel safe being open. And so I let I let that go ahead, and I sometimes I feel like, man, I went ahead and I let them win. But if something would have been actual, like they were actually going to act on something, that was a thing. um I am not a big person on having guns in the house and all of that. Like that's comes from a long line of other stuff. But Nathan wanted to go ahead and protect me, and we had, you know, our firearms out and different things like that. And it was one of those things where it felt so surreal. Like I was not doing anything besides trying to go ahead and just live and just be. And it is the reciprocity that I find so agitating with some of the different folks around here, because just going and getting, a soda through a drive-through. I literally had one lady say, "Do you know Jesus? Do you like him? Do you love him?" I'm like, I'm literally trying to get a soda through a drive-through. Like, and so I sit there and I wonder, it was just like, have you heard of the goddess Hecate? Do you know her? Like, if I went ahead and I did that, it would be like the pearls would be clutched. So that is one of the things that I really try to go ahead and preach about to when I have folks, that come in here. And a lot of folks are more open-minded than I think, even if they're very devout, in their Christian religion. It's like the understanding, and that's really what it's about. I think that if we had more understanding and more just mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy kind of situation, that would probably be help. But just being so shaken in that moment, I did kind of shut down. If I look back at it, would I have done it differently? Probably, but I now look at as literally the FAFO. you know and that was one of the other things why I went ahead and moved into this space. Not only is it more private and more cozy, than being in this fishbowl downtown where everybody can see you. And it was in a building where there were some times where I was the only one in there. And this is a huge building that was built in the 1860s. So we did have cameras. I got another type of death threat, and I had a camera that was faced towards the door, and it wasn't to go ahead and spy on anybody that was in the building and the comings and goings, but if there was going to be somebody that was going to come through that door, like it was going to be documented. I had some really interesting folks that have come in. Sometimes there's one lady I wanted to like look at her, like, and like try to like in her head, in my mind, go blink twice if you need help, because her dude was like right there, and I was like, this is a bad situation. you know. There was one guy that had come in and said that he was being stalked and that he was going to go get a firearm because he thought he was going to have to kill this guy. Like, if I did not have 30 years of experience in reading and handling, different de-escalation training and whatnot, I don't know if some of the instances that have popped up, if I would have been able to handle them. So again, having those human experiences before opening up my shop just laid a really nice foundation. And I still learned, on how to navigate a lot of people who would come in, and some people would come in very inebriated because, like I said, it was right next to a bar. Again, blessing and a curse because you had the people come in, but there was always these ethics that you have when you're reading for somebody, or even when you're practicing magic. I would go ahead and in a roundabout way about 3 times ask them, if they're feeling okay, are they going to be able to, how much have you had a drink, different things like that in a nice, professional way. But if it looked like they were going to be okay, it was fine. And sometimes the person, the person would come in with somebody who was super just blotto, but they were so eager to go ahead and get a message that I just kind of push them off to the side and would just focus on the person who was getting the reading. But now being here in this space, I have, a person who was former law enforcement, and like, I don't feel like I have to worry as much, if that makes sense. So that is kind of how I've, elevated from, yes, used to have this really awesome shop in the middle of downtown, and now people are going to have to come to me and come and find me and be a part of this coziness and be more, in an environment that I feel is more safe, not just for me, but for them as well, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you found a better place that's working and not a fishbowl for everybody to unlook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what's been kind of one of the things that stood out and while you've been talking is some of the ways that people have reacted more positively than
Yeah.
you would expect.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely different. Something we want to see more of in this world is like that coming together, that standing in love. I think most religions, like when you get down to the truth of what they teach, is about love. Like even
Absolutely.
within witchcraft and magical thinking, it comes down to love, which
Absolutely.
is a misconception that people have based on what they've been told, and they don't do any further investigation.
Right.
To that note, I would love for you to talk about some of the misconceptions
Mhm.
that have come to your attention, whether it's in this or just in your lifetime, that people have around witchcraft and around magic, and,
Yeah.
and some of the ways that you can dispel the myth that they might have built up in their mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I started out, it was 1990. It was 1993. It was just a couple months before I turned 13, and we had moved to Seattle. And there was a girl that was at the bus stop. She kind of took me under her wing and everything. And a couple weeks passed, and we become really good friends. And me growing up Missouri Synod Lutheran, and hearing my mom talk about this pastor that was, like she did confirmation with, and the satanic panic that was in the 80s, and just so much, anti witchcraft, da, 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 right? I went to my friend's house that had gone ahead and showed me nothing but kindness and support and everything else, moving from a smaller town, Washington, to Redmond. And there was a pentacle that was on her wall. Boom, as soon as you walked in, and I'm like, so my misconceptions growing up, boom, and like instantly kicked in, right? And I was like, are you guys devil worshippers? And she just laughed. Because thank you, Hollywood. There's so much that goes ahead and comes along with high drama will go ahead and sell, and there's some of these, like I said, different misconceptions that again have come along with Hollywood. So I wanted to go ahead and start studying. Well, her parents, okay, well, does your mom know? No. Okay, well, we will go ahead and give you book suggestions because obviously the internet was not really around right there. So To Ride a Silver Broomstick was my first witchcraft book that I read, and that was by Silver Ravenwolf. And I learned, even having to navigate being at home and actually going through Lutheran confirmation while I'm still practicing. It was really difficult. And then you had the people, and the kids at school, and we all know that kids can be super, super terrible. And then when the craft came out, okay, that was all of that hubbub that went around, and I was like, if I actually had some of those abilities, maybe you guys would shut the crap up. But no, it was so I learned from a very like young age that that was just how it was going to be. um Having, like I said, growing up in this Lutheran household, and then having some of the different, like, the psychic abilities that were also kind of like like shunned, like, we don't, you go to heaven or you go to hell. Like, there's no in between. You don't get to talk to spirits. Ghosts aren't real, yada yada yada. I was already kind of in this position to try to be in a religious practice or spiritual practice that was more accepting of different things that I had. People were like, "Oh, it's such a gift." I'm so sarcastic. I'm like, "It's an affliction." Like, sometimes, and folks will say, "Man, you really went to a hot spot full of like really haunted things." And again, when you're coming up through through reading and learning about witchcraft and different books that will go ahead and help you, uh, it it kind of helps dispel some of those myths that you have because you are reading. Because it's like, so I had, like I said, all of these different I like my different viewpoints on things, because I grew up in a very, religious household. And so I had these thoughts, but when I went ahead and started reading, and that knowledge and that power that you would have through just having a way to go ahead and explain things better, because you have read, you have studied, you have done this, you have done that. And I had this amount of, hey, this is what I've read about. This is what is like documented stuff that goes on, right? So it was easier for me to go ahead and dispel those myths as time went on, right? It was easier for me to accept some of my gifts, and dispel the myths that I had in myself, because I had read and because I had that knowledge. Um, some of the books that I had sat there and I had read, and was going to go to, having been in over with the University of Washington, and wanting to expand upon that and be a professor of religion, at 17, 18, 19 years old. I had read some of these books that I don't even know if some ministers had gone ahead and read and looked at, of different kinds of religious practices, not just with witchcraft, but with Buddhism and Muslim and Judaism, just all of this knowledge just consumed, right? Trying to not just dispel the myth, of witchcraft, but other myths that people had about different religions. So the bottom line was having that cliche saying that knowledge is power, and being able to not necessarily, play this ping pong match of haha, I got you, haha. When you're talking with somebody that has a very fervent belief, because you don't want to sit there and you don't want to down their belief system. But when they sit there and they start, talking down to you and say, that's where you're wrong. Yeah. Like the Scorpio just, I'm like, whoosah, whoosah. And sometimes, I pop off and I say, well, the devil is a Christian God. They don't like that very much. But when you're sitting here and again, dispelling myths, looking at different aspects of how the Christians have this archetype of the devil, doesn't match up with what everybody, but the Bible says, and like, I'm so glad that you have a book that, you go ahead and you believe in and you place a lot of, your religious practice, and that's awesome. But it's not everybody. And it's not the only one out there. So there's sometimes where I feel that if they look into it and they gain more knowledge to dispel, some of their own trappings that are in their mind, because this is what they have grown up with and this is how they have been taught. It pushes that, and those uncomfortable conversations sometimes people aren't ready for. Maybe they'll be ready for it in this time, maybe it'll be the next lifetime, but I hope that folks can be more open-minded. Doesn't mean that you have to change your beliefs, but just being accepting and knowing that just because somebody practices witchcraft, no, I don't sit there and I'm not part of the animal rescue group so that I can sacrifice animals. I had somebody ask me that one time, and I just looked at them and I said, come back when you have a better question.
Well, that's
And
definitely a myth that they created in, I mean, their own minds. It's an ignorance that people just don't know. And
yeah,
then, like you said, Hollywood has painted so many negative pictures
yeah,
of anything that's magical, witchcrafty, occulty. Like it's all thrown into this one category, and it's all dark.
yeah,
There's no, there's no spectrum of what it actually means.
right,
And um, like I was raised in a very cult-like flavor of
right,
Christianity, and
right,
I was told like everything that's going to bring demons, and like you couldn't even meditate. If you meditated, you were inviting demons in.
yep,
Doing anything witchcrafty, definitely you're working with the demons, and the devil's going to get you. Like there, it and it was complete ignorance until I started to actually learn what it is that people do, what it is
yeah,
that they actually believe, and
yeah,
then witnessing the behavior of people who genuinely have really good hearts, really good
yep,
ethics, and show up and help other people. They're kind, they're caring, and
yep,
just like everybody else, they're human and have human issues.
right,
But utilizing witchcraft, especially whenever you're doing a spell, which does not mean that you're trying to make somebody do something. Um,
right,
that's another misconception. If you're doing spells, you're like trying to bend everybody to your will and manipulate, but it's an
right,
internal process of being able to go through whatever you're dealing with at that time. And so working through or trying to bring something into fruition in your life,
mhm,
it is a witch's spell is equivalent to a Christian's prayer, and they are both forms of praying in different ways.
correct, correct. People will ask, well, do you hex somebody? I was like, did you tell somebody as you were going down the road in your fit of road rage, to go, you know, do something, negative? I was like, you just put that crap out there. It is literally folks will go ahead and do things that they sit there and have this big to do, like there's all of this like stuff that you have to do in order to go ahead and hex somebody. No, you just sit there and think some negative crap. And I can tell you that it's, I have my own battle road rage sometimes where I'm like, where's your blinker? you know? But they do that. And if you're going to um, do some kind of magical operation to where you feel like somebody has really done you wrong, I think that over the years, it has been from an old crone. She sat there and she used to say, I wish them well. I wish them far away from me. And that has been probably the most powerful thing that I could ever go ahead and just speak into existence. Because while you might not go ahead and get along with that person, somebody else might, right? If they're a really crappy person, it's not going to take a crystal ball or tarot cards or lighting a candle or this or that to know that life is just going to go ahead and hand them what they put out. If you're a crappy person and you keep doing crappy things, it's just a matter of time before it goes ahead and it comes back. I have no patience. Sometimes I'm like, I want to see results now. But it happens when it happens. And sometimes it's just like this accrual of things that they have done. And it just all kind of happens at once. And either they'll grow from that experience and say, hey, maybe I need to go ahead and change some of the way that I treat people or treat things or treat situations, or they won't. And if they don't want to keep learning that lesson, they'll just be doomed to repeat it. And that is going to be more impactful than anything that I could go ahead and conjure up. I would rather go ahead and say, man, this person is a complete jerk face and I don't want to be around them. I want to put in this positive effort towards what I'm working on, right? And just shift all of that. Because it's easy, like when I was younger, to go ahead and just have like this unbridled, I'm so upset. But the older that you've got and more experience, it's just like, go ahead and do you and be the person that you authentically are. Just do it away from me, and I'm going to go ahead and be over here and manifesting all of the things that I want to do and what is fun for me and what is bringing this positive and this positivity and just it's all about kind of like that shift of focus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. And it does come back to ourselves and learning how to live authentically. And
Yeah.
well, like for people like us, we have high ethics, big hearts, and
Yeah.
we want to help the world around us.
Yep.
In that way, we're not speaking for everyone, but I would say that most of the people that I come across are
Yeah.
much more kind and
Yeah.
loving, especially than anyone in a church would want you to believe that they are. And you can't judge somebody by how they look either. And know like this is the kind of character they have just by the persona that
Yeah.
they're presenting with clothing or hair or just the body that they were given because sometimes we're just going with what we got.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that having like speaking to that point, like I have faced a number of different kind of they didn't want to outright say like what is that, we listen, we don't judge. They were looking and they were judging. Like, they weren't going to listen, they were just going to look and they were going to judge. And then me, it's like I don't really meet a stranger, so I start going ahead and talking to them and just opening up. So even when I'm downtown running around the first time and folks didn't really know who I was, or they maybe were like, wow, it's like she's probably a tourist because tourism is our biggest export here, right? Now it's like I go they're walking down the street and everybody knows. like the green hair, or the this or the that, and they're like, hot dog, and then I hear, hi, Azure. So, and that was one of the things, like, coming into Jefferson too, is one of the places, can I prove it? No. But one of the places I believe that it didn't matter that I was making, close to three or close to six figures. This, it's like my tattoos, just different things like that. That was not, up to their version of what, a good person was. My landlords, now that we're going and getting a bigger place, they have always, even with our, completely different backgrounds, like, they have always been one of my biggest supporters. And when I popped out of the car when we first went to come and look at this place, I was trying to go ahead and present, like, best hair curl, blah blah. And my landlord, he goes, I like your hair. And I'm like, oh, phew. And he was sincere about it, right? So it really has, I think, also, and this could be me just having this perception, but I really hope that me being me and trying to help out and being out and not trying to hide away or this or that, has maybe opened up folks a little bit more to understanding that it's like, you don't have to go ahead and wear, these fine clothes and these dresses and, suits, and be, this and that to be a good person. You can have, blue, purple, whatever kind of hair. You can, it doesn't mean that I'm not, smart or a degenerate or whatever kind of picture that people want to go ahead and paint, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a good note to wrap up on, because we're getting close to our time.
Yeah.
And not judging people.
Yeah.
So, one last question.
Sure.
If you could leave the audience with any bit of wisdom, either something sparked from this conversation or something else in your life, what would that be?
I'm gonna cry. um, it is that age-old cliche saying that you never know what someone's going through, and try to be open and understanding. Try to offer those moments of love and understanding that not everyone will go ahead and get out there, especially with what we have going on right now. And looking for the good in people, because there is, or there, definitely can be, if you're trying to be good to folks. I really hope that love and compassion that you show will be a spark in somebody else that maybe didn't have that around and really needed it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We all need to remember that, especially when we get in our own moods.
Yeah.
Well, if my audience would like to hook up with you, where can they find you on the internet?
So right now I am just over at Cato Moon on Facebook. I have a website. As always, it's like, that is one of those things that needs to be, like, updated. I need an Instagram, I needed this, I needed that, all of those things. But, like, working as much as I do, like, that is really the only thing that I can say, hey, I have my eye on that more than I do almost any other social media platform, is just, having Cato Moon on Facebook. I think if you go ahead and you Google me too, it'll go ahead and it'll pop up, especially, here in Jefferson, Texas. I always, like, if you can't make it to Jefferson, I'm here with all of the Zooms, the FaceTimes, and this, the that. And, we'll set you up on the chairs like you're with me right now. we'll have a talk, and I always try to make it seem like you're literally just sitting down with somebody and having a cup of coffee, a cup of a tea, and it's like Vegas in my little office. What happens here stays here. So definitely don't want your business out there either. That makes sense.
Fantastic. Go find her if you want a reading. She's a really good reader. I can attest to that. And if you are still with us and you want to help me promote my show, you can share this with somebody that you think might be inspired by it. Leave me reviews on Apple iTunes or 5 stars on Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. And if you're still watching or if you're listening and you want to see Azure's aesthetic, it is absolutely beautiful and at least worth clicking on the YouTube video to see the way that she has everything set up.
Yeah.
Anyway, as you embrace your humanness, be kind, be you, and remember, everything is part of the journey.